Virtually all cars with hydraulic brakes have to have at least one flexible brake line. Solid lines are better, but all our cars have at least one flexible line. Most have 3, some have 4. Why? Well, the reason is pretty simple. The wheels and their associated brakes move independently of the body of the car. The master cylinder is connected to the body. Solid hydraulic lines from the body have to travel out, and at some point they have to have some sort of a flexible bridge to get out to those wheels and brakes that are moving independently. A strong reinforced rubber line has been the standard solution for a long time. Now, this product works well. If your car was built in the last, say, 65 years or so, you probably have one or more of these in your car right now. Now, as good as these are, they have a shortcoming. They have a propensity to want to swell when they're put under stress or pressure. With more pressure, they swell even more. So when you step on your brake pedal and the piston inside the master cylinder begins to push pressurized brake fluid toward the brakes, part of that pressure, part of that fluid is used in swelling the brake lines. This issue worsens when the brake fluid gets hot from spirited driving. It also gets worse when the flexible lines get old and they get soft. Now, is there a better solution? Yes. But frankly, if the car is the family minivan, nobody will be motivated to seek a better solution. The minivan is going to handle like a small bus anyway. However, if a driver has something other than a minivan and he wants to step on his brake pedal and get a good, solid, active response, rubber hoses aren't going to get that driver where he wants to be. The answer for that driver is a flexible line that won't swell like the rubber line will. This is a brake line. It's flexible. Inside is the part that actually carries the fluid, and if you look carefully, this has a braided stainless steel outer casing. That means that inside, if the line inside has a propensity to want to swell, it can't because it's being held in place by this. A brake system with braided flex lines communicates the will of the driver to the brakes in a way that traditional rubber lines never could. Of course, a braided line like this has to do more than simply function. It also has to fit the application. If it doesn't fit perfectly, it's of no value because it could leak. Let's see if we can identify a challenge some people have encountered when installing upgraded lines like this. To do that, to understand, I'm going to ask us to go back to the old line for just a moment. I'm going to ask you to notice that there are 2 differences here. Number 1, this one is considerably longer than that one. And number 2, can you see right there that the end of this is tapered, where this one isn't? The reason why this is tapered is when you have a unit like this, which is tapered on the inside, is that, well, I can show you with my fingers, if you have the tapered male and the tapered female, when they come together, we get a perfect seal all around here. So the way this works is that this taper fits into the taper here. So imagine somebody's under the car, he's working with this, and he says, oh, this is tapered, and this is tapered. So he puts them together, and he starts to thread them down, and watch what happens. He's going to get right about here, and it stops. There's lots of thread left, but the reason why it stopped is because inside here, the male taper has met the female and the seal has been made. Just a little more snug, and this will be a perfect fit. Now let's imagine, I'm going to ask you to use your imagination with me for just a moment here. I'm going to take this off. Let's go to the other end of the same line, the short end, and I want you to imagine that this short end is tapered like the long one is. Okay, so the man's under the car, he says, oh, look, this is tapered and this is tapered. That's great. So he's going to put them together. He's going to thread it down, and watch what happens. It stops when it hits the bottom. It stopped because it hit here, not because the seal was made inside. That means that the tapered seal inside is not effectively closed. This will leak inside here. Fluid will run down through the threads and come out. This will leak. The solution, the answer, has been around for a very, very long time, and it works very, very well. When they run into a situation where they can't quite get a tapered seal, or, like in this line here, the end is cut flat, we put a copper washer on. Then when the 2 units are threaded together, the copper washer is pressed into place and it seals perfectly. Now let's keep that in mind, and let's go back to our solid line for our stainless steel braided line. Let's assume that the individual is under his car and he's got these brand new Goodrich braided lines. He says, this is great, I have a taper here and I have a taper here, and he goes and he tries to thread them together. And we already know what's going to happen. He gets here and he bottoms out right there. When he bottoms out, that's telling us that the 2 seals are not making contact inside, and this will leak. He either knows it right now or he's going to notice it as soon as he tries to bleed his brakes. What's the solution? Well, the solution is the same as we used a minute ago. We're going to use a copper seal. So he goes and he gets his copper seal, his little copper washer, puts it on, and he goes to thread it, and he says, wow, that's That sits on there pretty loose. I'm a little concerned about that, and he should be. But let's see what happens. He's going to thread it down, and when he gets pretty close to the bottom, he checks it again, and he says, it still sits kind of loose. Right now I can see that this part is down a little bit and the back is up, and it's wobbling in there. Now watch what happens. As he goes and he tries to tighten it. Did you see that? Right now it's not down anymore down here, and it's not sticking off the back. In fact, this washer is perfectly centered. Watch again. I'm going to loosen it up. It's free to wobble, and it certainly is. It's laying downward. And when he brings it up snug, it centered itself. How did it do that? Well, this is where the beauty of a well-engineered piece of equipment comes along. This Goodrich line is excellent for this. I'm going to take the tee off. I'm going to take the washer off. And if you look very, very carefully, this has a shoulder to it. It's very slight, but it's there. The outer edges are lower than the middle. So what happens is when the washer is on there, in the beginning, it's free to wobble around as it wants to, but when it gets pinned down from what it's going to make contact with, it sits right in the middle of the crowning or the shoulder, right exactly where it's supposed to be. So what that means is that we're going to be able to have a line which is going to thread on perfectly and not have any leaks. So if you're looking for an upgrade from the old rubber lines that could swell, the braided steel lines are the answer, and they fit perfectly and leak free.